Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you are here for our first 49er chat. I am Noemi Guevara, your host and the Director of Alumni Engagement at Cal State Long Beach. Before we start the session and introduce our next speaker, we just want to let you know this session is being recorded and will be available on demand on our website at csulb.edu/alumni. And now I would like to introduce Kurt Brower, our CSULB Alumni Council President. Kurt.
Thank you, Noemi. I want to welcome everyone to our very first 49er Industry Chat. Also, this week would be commencement, so congratulations to everyone that would be walking and graduating this week. Our guest speaker is Kimberly Farrell. Kimberly is a fellow board member and a very good friend of mine. She is the CEO and Chief Learning Officer of Unlimited Performance Training Incorporated. Her education started at Long Beach State. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Business Marketing. She came to the university on an athletic scholarship and played basketball. She was also captain of the women's basketball team. She is, as I said, an alumni board member, and she is also on the Committee on Athletics. Kimberly got her MBA from the University of Notre Dame, Mendoza College of Business. Her biotech and pharmaceutical career included stints with Amgen, Takeda, Roche, Stewart ICI Pharma, which is now AstraZeneca. She held several roles with increasing levels of responsibility, including head of sales and manager training, and head of sales for the Northeast region. Kimberly is also an entrepreneur. She started her own business about 18 years ago called Unlimited Performance Training, and she leads this top life science and leadership corporate training company. Kimberly is also author of over 100 articles on leadership, training, and teamwork. She's a popular keynote speaker for business, medical, and academic events. Kimberly has also participated in TEDx talks, and her credentials include a TEDx speaker, City of Los Angeles, Top 100 Leaders in LA. Kimberly also researched a 7-year study on women in business, published in Pharmaceutical Executive Magazine. This study identified key challenges and predictors of success for 467 women working for 92 companies. Kimberly also does a large amount of volunteering. She is the founder, president of Healthcare Businesswomen's Association, Chicago. That was back in 2003-2004. She was presented with the Star Award from HBA Global, and that was in 2004. She is a board mentor of the Healthcare Businesswomen's Association of Los Angeles, and she is a board of director member for the Life Science Trainers Educational Network and a past board member and advisory board focus publication. And now, without further ado, Kimberly Farrell.
Hey, Kurt, thank you so much. I appreciate the really nice introduction. And Noemi, thank you for inviting me as well to be part of the industry chats. First and foremost, I just want to say that I hope everyone is safe where you are. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Hopefully it will add some interest and background to your evening, a little bit about a really proud California State University Long Beach graduate, and how I really believe that my wonderful education and my experience as a student athlete at Long Beach State really made a tremendous difference in my ability to launch my career, both inside corporate roles and then later on as an entrepreneur, including in my volunteer work and my mindset for giving. So with that, I thought it would be nice to maybe dive a little bit deeper into a bit about my background, my experience at Long Beach State. So first off, I was born and raised in Burbank, California, and Title IX had passed when I was in 9th grade. Many of you remember Title IX, know about Title IX. And it was at that time I was barely able to dribble a basketball. But my older sister convinced me that at 6'1", I had a good shot. I wasn't yet 6'2". I had a good shot at getting a full scholarship. And so for the next few years, I worked really hard, and Long Beach State recruited me in one of their top recruiting classes to date at that time. And I had 4 years playing basketball at Long Beach State. And we ended up with about 101 wins and 27 losses. And I say that because it really was, it is and was still one of the highlights of my life. The ability to travel, play in Madison Square Gardens. I've thought about it a lot the last few weeks, watching The Last Dance with the Michael Jordan story, and how much athletics clearly touched his life and those around him. I focused while I was getting my degree at Long Beach State on the full athletic scholarship, on a degree in business, emphasis major in marketing. And I will say I have a lot of friends who have graduates, students that have graduated or they've graduated from some of the other colleges in California where they said it was more about theory as opposed to practical experience. And I think that's important for me to kind of call out about California State University of Long Beach, because my education in marketing really did prepare me for my career. In fact, I was hired during on-campus interviews at Long Beach State. And those interviews, I only knew I wanted sales and marketing, but I didn't really know which industry. And some of you who may be earlier in your career, you may not be 100% sure exactly which industry might be the best for you. And now with COVID, there's so many industries that used to be really strong that really are laying off and not as strong given the situation, and others that are just bursting and hiring and having tremendous growth. For me, launching my career came out of the Career Center as a company back then. It was a small vitamin company called Stewart Pharmaceuticals. You may not have heard of it because it was part of ICI Americas. And then later, ICI Pharma was a sister company. And then later on, Zeneca, and then purchased by AstraZeneca. So you may be familiar with the name AstraZeneca today. But back then, I was calling on physicians, and I was a medical sales representative. Everything was very scientific, and that was really challenging in terms of the education that we got. But even to this day, with something like COVID, I know so much about infectious disease for somebody that is not a medical practitioner. So there's so many great things about being a scientific medical representative. And I did that, and I know that my education was great because in 20 months, I launched into my first promotion with the company after receiving the chairman's award in sales. And so I ended up relocating a lot in my career. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment, and which of the major biotech and pharma companies I've had the privilege of working for in my early career. But I also want to tell you a little bit about a not-for-profit that I launched, which I think is also significant and important, especially during this period with COVID. And I'll explain a little later why I think it's so important. So I want to talk a little bit about biotech and pharma. Again, I want to go back to the fact I didn't know a lot about the industry, but I knew I really wanted a sales role, and I interviewed and really got the shot by these companies coming on campus. And now I know they're doing virtual interviews, many different types of companies like in pharma and in biotech. And I really encourage you, if you're on the early end of your career or recent graduate, to really look into these types of companies. But as you may or may not know, biotech and pharma companies make up $1 trillion in revenue. And so you can see that they really bring in a lot of money. It is a very inelastic industry. And so as you know, what I mean by that is when times are good, people need their medicine, and they tend to really pay even more attention to their health care because times are good and they have the discretionary income to do so, do a lot of preventative maintenance in medicine. But when times are hard like now, well, there can be a lot of depression, there can be a lot of stress that can create more health issues. And then of course, the pandemic is creating health issues for people. So with that, pharmaceuticals and biotech is doing quite well. And there's some really great companies that are hiring both, globally and domestically. And I know that there's a lot of people. I saw the list of people who registered and are online tonight. I know many of you are in California too. AbbVie just purchased Allergan and they're hiring, GlaxoSmithKline hiring, Amgen hiring. So really encourage you to kind of think about those. If you happen to be in career transition, maybe your mid or later career, and it's something that you'd like to do. So the industry is very much meritocracy. So one of the things that was so important as I started in sales, and anyone in any industry, you know that you can measure results with sales. So I was able to do very well because I had excellent training. And that was one of the things looking back. I was very fortunate to get with a company that really invested in me as an employee and really educated me so that when I went in front of the customers, I was very well prepared. There was a strong corporate development track for high performers. I was fortunate. I didn't really know what that was about way back when, but that development track meant that I had people that were mentoring me, and I was being looked at for what would be the next best role for Kimberly to be put in order to develop and take her as far as she can go in a leadership track. So the company I was with, I mentioned, was Stewart Pharmaceuticals. It was part of a major company, ICI Pharma and ICI America. So they also had film and paint and other types of products. And after I was with that company for 10 years in a number of different rotations, from sales, sales training, sales management, trade and government relations, I ended up getting recruited by a new biotech company up the road. I actually had a territory in Long Beach right out of school. And then I moved to Delaware, moved to Colorado, and then back to Los Angeles. And then I left ICI Pharma and went to Amgen. At Amgen, I got exposed to the world of biotechnology. So often people ask, what's biotechnology? It's applied molecular genetics. And this company was very new and in a growth stage. And I took over management development, created the university curriculum, and later went into human resources and was an internal consultant. Later on, I decided to go off and launch a new district area for Roche in the primary care division. That was a great experience for me. But then I was asked and recruited to help launch a brand new pharmaceutical company, a mid-size pharmaceutical company called Takeda Pharmaceuticals North America. So I left Westlake Village and I went out to Chicago. These were amazing life experiences for me. They were great opportunities. At Takeda, I was the head of sales and launched a division of 110 people to launch a new drug, a thiazolidinedione for type 2 diabetes. Within a year, the team had brought in $250 million in sales. So I share these things with you because right after that, then I went into training. And as you've heard, there's been a number of roles that I've had in training, whether it was early sales training, sales management training, or leading a training department of 35 people and overseeing both sales and management training, or the HR roles working in career development. Why are these things important? Because as you have a career within industry and biotech and pharma and what we call the life science industries, there are times that you feel like maybe you get stagnant. I think any of you might feel that way. Whether you're in career transition or whether you've been in your industry or your business for a long time, you might feel a little stagnant. And sometimes when we're stagnant, it's important for us to reach out and look for ways to build our skill sets. And as a chief learning officer, I feel like I'm only as good as the last thing I've learned, not just the last thing I've taught. And so as the chief learning officer for Unlimited Performance Training, I really launched my company, and within 2 years, gave back in the area of Chicago to launch a new chapter called the Healthcare Businesswomen's Association chapter in Chicago. Why is that relevant? Because you can really add to your skills as a volunteer. And what I was able to do was I was able to handpick a board of directors. I was chairman of the board. I was able to launch a nonprofit from scratch versus the for-profit of unlimited performance training I had launched the year before. And I did this parallel to continuing to grow unlimited performance training. So I wanted to share a little bit about that and how it really having really the experience on both the for-profit and not-for-profit side has really given me a unique perspective to business. So let's talk a little bit about my business, Unlimited Performance Training, and what biotech training is all about, because I don't want to assume that you know exactly what one like myself would do in a company as I lead our team of consultants and life science training consultants and designers and operations people. As I lead the team, what are we doing? So major clients like Pfizer, Genentech, Abbott, these companies come to us and say, and have said this over the last 18 years, you know, we want to launch a new drug. We have a good training department, but we need to supplement our training department, or we need you to come in and improve the sales effectiveness training for the HIV division or for the cardiovascular team. And so as a life science training consultant, we'll go in and we'll look at what is the disease state that these representatives are selling to the physicians in the medical community, and what are the products that treat those disease states that the company represents. And then we do a gap analysis, and we really look at how can we overall help them improve performance. And we design, we do the instructional design, implementation. We work with their subject matter experts, and we either have programs that we have off the shelf or we create new ones for each of those clients. So performance management is really what life science training and learning and development across any industry is all about. And we do have clients outside of life science in the hospitality industry, or we've worked with some universities and secondary schools. And with all of those clients, they're always looking at how do we fill the gaps that people have in performance so that we can hit our goals, our KPI goals or what have you. So we do things called the needs assessment. We talk and do interviews with senior leaders, with the direct managers of people or teams that are not performing. And we really, after looking at all the different assessments that we do, put together recommendations for the customers. And those recommendations allow the customer to start a dialogue with us based on facts, based on input, both qualitative and quantitative assessment on how will we make these changes and how will we overall improve performance in those sales divisions or on those employee teams. So performance management is really a challenging part of learning and development, and one that I really enjoy very much. So let's talk a little bit about talent management and diversity and inclusion. Now, we really focus a lot on leadership development. Now, we've done every level of employee training, from onboarding to needs assessments to feedback from climate surveys, cultural competency development, sales training, advanced sales training, sales management, leadership. But what over the last 10 years we've really focused on is that leadership development. Because clients keep coming back and saying, we love your experiential learning. We love the way you're developing our leaders, but tying it to our vision, mission, and values. And also the way that you're helping us meet our diversity and inclusion goals or our talent management goals. So let me talk to you a little bit about what that looks like in terms of one of our premier programs, Win Leadership, and how it works for our clients in the life science industry. So I mentioned earlier that often there are product launches for sales training and advanced sales training. And then there's also leadership development training or sales management training. Unlimited performance training in the business that I've launched as being an entrepreneur, we staff people that maybe have the background for diabetes or cardiovascular disease to go in and do that training on those therapeutic areas for our life science clients. And then we also often teach the advanced sales training or the sales effectiveness training to improve overall performance at any stage of their career. So there are many award-winning seminars that have been designed by Unlimited Performance Training. So as an entrepreneur, in addition to really setting up the business plan, the infrastructure, doing the hiring, the big thing with a corporate training company like Unlimited Performance Training is, what do you offer? So in addition to services like training consultation, running sales meetings, regional meetings, national meetings, providing keynote speakers, providing specialized training consultants on key therapeutic areas, what else do you offer? And so we have what's called kind of off-the-shelf programs. These are seminars that have won awards for our clients in terms of being able to quantify the measurable results. So here you can see our brands. These are the different programs that we offer. I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things. So for example, selling to multicultural physicians. 1 out of 4 medical graduates in the United States are actually international medical graduates. So they're from very diverse backgrounds. And this particular seminar really helped representatives learn to be more culturally sensitive and culturally competent, built their skills on understanding the customs and traditions of physicians from all over the world that were maybe practicing medicine, or the nurses practicing medicine in the United States. And this particular program really helped people be more approachable to those physicians and nurses and medical staff, because they had more of a sense of how that person likes to be approached. And this particular program has won an award for a major company, a major division within AstraZeneca, at the chief executive officer at the Diversity Summit years ago actually awarded them with an Innovative Leadership Award. So how a training company like Unlimited Performance Training is awarded is our clients win. So we create the programs, we help them implement, deliver, quantify the measurements and the success, and tie it to business results. And then in many instances, they've won awards. Well, that's a little bit about our portfolio. In addition, you can see here, I was talking earlier that our sweet spot now is really where we do all of those things still on demand, is leadership development. My passion actually stemmed from being in basketball at Long Beach State. We had a very diverse team of women. And this was before people really talked a lot about diversity. And what I learned in the experiences of traveling together and being on the road together and basically, you know, almost living together. We spent so much time together with practices and games and travel for 4 years. I really came to appreciate the socioeconomic, racial, gender, all the differences, the sexual orientation differences, and how that affects people. And this is a very big topic within business today. And companies have very low representation of women in the senior C-suite, in the senior leadership roles, as you all may know, and of course, people of color. So I designed a program first for women in leadership. It's the red logo, Win Leadership, and it advances, it develops the performance and leadership practices and competencies of women in leadership that are high potential, high performing, but an underrepresented number for those clients. And then also later on in 2015, was asked by some of these major Fortune 100 companies to create then Win Leadership for Multicultural Leaders, which is for men and women of color. And that particular curriculum really helps them develop leadership skills and practices, get the advocacy that they need, the sponsorship, the mentors, and the skills to be candidate ready for that next very senior level position. the last Win Leadership program, the more recent one, is Win Leadership Sports to Corporate, going back again to the influence that my experience as a student athlete had on me from Long Beach State. And that is called Win Leadership Sports to Corporate. And that is about working with upperclassmen to really help them develop the messaging and the awareness of what are the skills and experiences they have as a student athlete and how are they transferable to the workplace. So very excited about that launch. You can see some other logos. They're proprietary sessions that we run, micro-mentoring and delivered impromptu. So anytime that you're developing instructional design and seminar curriculum, it's important to really have a solid base. Why is it? Those are the skills, knowledge, and behaviors that you are teaching to these individuals, these employees. And Win Leadership has a very strong research-based curriculum platform, and that is a study that I did researching the key predictors of success and the obstacles to success for women leaders in healthcare. There were 467 women, and they were part of 92 different healthcare companies. And through this, we were able to really identify and isolate the top competencies and leadership practices that these women need, creating assessments and really making sure that we teach them those skills that will make a difference for them as they move forward. So I want to talk further about instructional design. When you have a corporate education company or corporate learning company, it's very important to really engage your participants and meet them where they're at. I always say that one of the things I feel best about and really passionate about is that no matter what background a person is from, no matter what skills or where they're at professionally or personally at that time when they first come in to be a part of unlimited performance training seminars, is I always say to all of the consulting team for UPT is, hey, we got to meet them where they're at and pull them forward. It's not about telling them they have to get here, but rather really taking the time to build that relationship, get to know them, and then pull them forward. So what does that have to do with integration of learning and development and of design? Well, here's what it has to do with. So you have a group of, say, 25 people that come to Win Leadership. They're all from very different backgrounds, educationally, experience-based, skill-based, knowledge. And each of them has certain goals that are individual, but then you have a collective group, and then you have corporate goals as well, team goals, leadership goals. So we really work on doing a very integrated curriculum design. So for example, Win Leadership is not just classroom and virtual learning, but it's also executive coaching. So they get the one-on-one. So that's where you meet them where they're at and pull them forward. In addition, we engage their managers and we engage senior leaders, because you can't really take a group of 25 who everybody says are the high performing, high potential leaders and develop them and invest in them for 6 months without having really strong senior leader engagement and support. So we do a number of proprietary things that pull that all together. And that's why I felt this was a great illustration for integration. And as you can imagine, where we had very hybrid learning and blend of both classroom, virtual, etc. Now we have all virtual, but we keep the engagement, we keep the 360, we keep the assessments, so everything is virtual. And it's actually worked out very well. It wasn't a difficult thing because Unlimited Performance Training has been doing virtual learning for years and virtual coaching. So I'm gonna continue now and just give you a little snippet, a little insight into an example of virtual executive coaching. So, so participants, this is actually from a number of Win Leadership sessions, kind of picked where are they on the one side of the screen before attending Win Leadership, what were what they communicated as their real issues in their own assessment for advancing. And so, one of the big ones for women in our sessions has been inserting themselves into closed groups, feeling like people were always gathering. They didn't know they were gathering, and they didn't know how to get into that group, and trying not to be resentful that they didn't feel included. And this goes to the heart of diversity and inclusion. So we would work with those individuals one-on-one in a safe, private environment through the executive coaching with the Win Leadership Program, and really help them understand what their mindset needs to be, what the skills need to be, what their approach options are, and then work with them for the implementation of that. So that would be an example of, working with people, and one particular individual I'm thinking of now really isn't intimidated by those times where they maybe feel they're being excluded, and they know how to penetrate and increase their sense of belonging and inclusion. So next, what I want to talk a little bit about are, what are the challenges? Because all of you are facing COVID-19 challenges professionally and in your careers, and unlimited performance training, and myself. Personally, there's been many challenges. So I would just say that one of the first things is in the intellectual property for a learning and development company. When I showed you all of those different brands we have of seminars, is really our lifeblood. This is where we monetize the business. This is where we make the most money. And so when you look at the security of putting things online, slides online, etc., we have to be very careful to just not do public forums virtually. So we tend to go into corporations where who is selected for the Win Leadership programs, or the selling to multicultural customer programs, or the unforgettable trainer programs, who those attendees are as selected by their organization remains confidential, and what they say and what they want to work on remains confidential. So we tend to have many of our seminars done, I'd say probably 95% done without it being open enrollment. But with COVID-19, one of the challenges is, how can we modify or adapt our content to bring it to a greater public forum, and monetize that without giving away what we have that's quite proprietary and special. But that being said, in addition, it also has opened up a lot of opportunities because many more people want the virtual coaching. And we've been doing that globally with clients for years. But now everybody really is excited about getting that and having coaching packages, regardless of whether they pay for that on their own or their company pays for that. We're also looking at what are some of the other ways that we can add value and also give back, right? And that's a really important message too. How can we give back? So with that, I would just like to leave you with this important thought, is that, never stop learning. Right now, even though we're very isolated in the quarantine, we have to be careful that we don't get complacent, that we're really mindful of how are we spending our free time, even if it's in our home. And are we allocating time for us to really keep growing and learning? And I put some examples up here, whether you're in transition or whether you're working for your company, but maybe you should travel 30% of the time. And you find that because you're not doing the commute, you have a lot more time. Use it. We don't know how long this will last. It may be a very short period of time left, or it could be extended. But can you get a certificate in something? Can you go to the CSULB Career Center and use some of those resources to up your game, to improve your skills? Are your tech skills really strong? If they're not, lean in. There isn't a better time to try out new things online because people are so forgiving. They're just happy to see a face online. They're happy to hear what you have to say. So right now, people are really forgiving about technical issues or about you not being great at this. So really lean in and try those things. There are also a lot of grant money that's been set aside by the US government, things that have to do with education, new programs, starting new not-for-profits to fill the needs that have been created because of COVID-19. I really encourage you to go to the Department of Education website, usgov.grants as well. Also, have you ever thought about running your own business? If you're a woman, check out the free resources of the women-owned business centers or the Small Business Association. Look into all of these things. I've also listed some things, and I know that Noemi will be sending my slides later. I've set them up so that you have resources. But LinkedIn Learning is free. There's some really good quality programs, Microsoft courses. So really, I would encourage you to do that. And I talked a little bit about the history that I have of volunteering. As you know, from Kurt's really nice introduction, thank you, Kurt, of me, he had said that I am on the board for Cal State University Long Beach Alumni Association. I also have the privilege of serving on the Committee on Athletics. So why is that relevant? Well, as people that are part of Long Beach State, look for the opportunities for you to give back. And now some of you may say, but I don't want to leave my house. Maybe I have an underlying condition. Understood. But honestly, there are many opportunities that you can call senior people on the phone, or you can give a little bit at www.csulb.edu/give. Whatever you have. If times are hard, it's always time, talent, or treasure, right? If you can't give the treasure, give your time and your talent. So those would be some thoughts that I would leave with you, to never stop learning and never stop giving. And with that, I'd like to open it up to questions and answers. So if anyone has any questions for me, hopefully you've been able to send the questions to Noemi, and maybe Kurt, you'll ask me some questions.
Yes, actually, we do have a few questions. Thank you for that presentation. That was very, very enlightening. I had no idea the pharmaceutical industry was as involved as it is. First question we have is, what advice do you have for people who have just graduated and are frustrated with employment options during this COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes. So I know a lot of people that are very frustrated. So the first thing is keep busy, keep looking. Use LinkedIn, use the Long Beach State Career Source Center, go to these other sites that I told you about with regard to the government. There are state sites that also tell you about job openings. There are a lot of jobs that are related to COVID-19 that don't necessarily put you in danger, but help the country really deal with the issues that we're facing. In addition, today's industry chat had to do with being an entrepreneur and also with the life science industry. A lot of healthcare companies are hiring. So go to their sites, determine what your geographic area would be and where you would go, and then look for that. In addition, there's a lot of, if you're not willing to leave your house right now for whatever your reasons are, then you can also do some telesales. So I would really encourage you, you've got Amazon and you've got Google, you've got a lot of these tech companies, Instacart, you've got I've got a lot of really interesting things happening with Target and with Walmart. I mean, when you look at the industries that have really boomed right now, you've got Costco, you've got, of course, Amazon, which is no surprise, and that was an increase in 32% in their revenues. Lululemon, 40%, which is interesting because when you look at Under Armour, they're actually down in sales. So a lot of companies weren't quick to adapt to the online, to hire enough people to take the volume of calls. All of us have experienced that when we have called certain businesses and they say, well, you know, we're closed right now, or we have high volume. So they're not really meeting the demand. So I would encourage you to just cast your net a little bit wider and to really track with your congressman sites, with your local government sites, also with the university sites, and to just make sure whatever you do, that you're keeping busy and keeping your professional skills strong. Because one of the first questions everyone's going to ask you is, how did you get back during COVID-19? So they're not just going to look at what were you doing professionally, they're also going to look at how did you help? We're in a national crisis, how did you help? So I want you to keep those things in mind. All right, thanks, Kurt, good question.
And we have another one. Can you talk more about the law of giving?
The law of giving. Oh,
Yes.
there's a book. It's called The 7 Spiritual Laws. And the law of giving is one of the 7 spiritual laws. And what I want to communicate there is the fact that it's not a quid pro quo. So I don't give to a certain organization because they're going to give back to me. They might and they might not. But I give to a certain organization because it's where my heart is. It's where my skills are. It's you know, I can never thank California State University of Long Beach enough for the full athletic scholarship and the experience, the life experiences and all that this university has given me. I want to give back. So when the law of giving is, when you give a lot in many different places, it will come back to you, but it won't necessarily come back to you from those places. So it's not a quid pro quo. And I think when you think of it that way, it's giving to give. It's not giving to receive. But in the abundance of equity that you give out kind of to the universe is kind of the concept, you'll receive.
Okay, we have another question. What advice do you have for someone starting a new business in this current climate?
I think it's actually a great time to start a new business. So I would say be courageous, all right? One of the things that I'll go back to in the presentation I just did today, I talked a lot about the different rotations I had. In those, I had 11 different rotations with increasing levels of responsibility in the first part of my career. But what was one of the core areas I kept going back to and seizing opportunities with? It was training and development. It was learning and development, whether it was in commercial or HR. Now those are skills that are transferable. So you want to think about yourself as a portfolio of talents. What are your unique skills, values, interests, experiences, and how can you leverage those to launch a business? And then you want to go and you want to do your research. You want to find out, what is the growth area of business? Where are the needs? Where does the government say they need new not-for-profits or for-profits? Do I want to do a not-for-profit? Do I want to do a for-profit? So if you're a woman, go to the Women Enterprise, Women-Owned Business Enterprise site and look for the resources. Get a free consult. They don't charge you for anything. They even give you templates for creating your own business plan. They have free sessions. In fact, the College of the Counties out in College of the Canyons, that particular college, I just got something on my email today. And what did it say? They have a series of 6 different sessions, all free. They're all going to be virtual. You can sign up, and those sessions will tell you how to sell things online. So I think right now, more than ever, everybody wants to help people make a living and meet our financial obligations and do something purposeful and valuable. So I would go there. I would also look at the Small Business Association. And also, if you don't already, get some social media accounts and start following not-for-profits if you're interested in that, and see what they're doing, see what they're talking about. There are so many people giving away things free now to help you. Don't be afraid to take it and seize the opportunity. Pay it forward.
Okay, here's another. This is actually 2 parts, so I'll give you both, and if you need me to ask you the second part again, let me know. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for someone considering an advanced education, an MBA specifically, will it help the individual's advancement into a management position within an industry?
Okay, so that's a very good question, and it's a challenging question given the current pandemic. So, as you know, universities, in fact, all the Cal State universities are doing fall online classes. MBA programs have tremendous value in not just the content of learning, but in the exchange in the network. Most major business programs will put together a very eclectic group of applicants that are admitted, and the richness will be in the exchange of their information and experience in their industries. So what can be challenging is to have that exact value of exchange during an online program. It's a bit different. Doesn't mean you won't have good exchange. It's very different. So you really have to ask yourself, is it better now or later? Will you have the same return on investment, both financially and physically? It can be a very good time to stay in school, get a master's degree in something, get a certificate, but it also may be a time to maybe try to launch that small business. I was talking to somebody recently who's in life sciences, more on the business commercial side. One of the #1 deficits, of course, are healthcare professionals. And she's looking at getting her BS in nursing. And when she started making the calls, because she has an MBA, they said, well, actually, you come for 2 years and you'll leave with a master's in nursing. So make the calls. You'd be amazed. So many people are not busy right now, and they'll take your call. So ask for help. And if that's what you want to do and it's part of your long-term plans, then you should do it. But just consider all the other options and the environment.
You mentioned the book, The 7 Laws of Spirituality. Are there any other books that you could recommend looking into?
So it was actually, if I said it that way, it's the 7 spiritual laws. And yes, so I would say, I am not a big book reader as much now as I like to read Harvard Business Review, and I like to read the articles that they have. I feel they're very current and relevant. I do like the book Blink. I think that is a very good book. I do think the older book, Emotional Intelligence, just is timeless. If you haven't read that, I would definitely encourage you to read that. I think the Harvard Business Review.org site has some amazing articles, and that they're very current and relevant. And I'm amazed at just how quickly so many standards of practice in management and leadership are irrelevant now, given COVID-19. So I think that having a really strong Twitter feed can really help you capture some great articles. I think that's another way to do it. Your microphone's off, Kurt.
Sorry. There it is. We're good now. This one is a loaded question, and I work with a lot of people that really need to listen to your response. Do you have any tips on how to be even more productive while working from home?
How to be even more productive? Well, I do. So one of the first things is you have to keep a routine. It's really easy, especially that first week or so. I was probably, like many of you, a little bit shell-shocked and didn't like the kind of sense of claustrophobia, having to stay home and not do my routines socially, many of the evenings and all of those things. So I think one of the things is to have structure and to stay with it, and that's for you. It's not for anybody else. And to be productive, I think you really have to schedule your day. And if you're out of work, it's even more important to schedule it. What amount of time is going to networking? What amount of time is going to research, to learning about whatever your next steps are. Are you in exploratory mode for the next career? What are you doing? Which industries are you interested in? Are they hiring? What is their growth like? What skills do you have that are transferable to those industries if you've only been in one industry your whole life? So I think to get the most out of this time, you have to do that, but I also think you have to give. I think it's really easy if we're not giving to other people to only think about how we're feeling and what we're experiencing. So I always have a chunk of the day where I am proactive about calling other people and checking in with them, asking how they're doing, trying to be an ear for them, trying to see if I can be resourceful for whatever their challenges are. And I don't mean paid clients. I mean people that maybe were my clients in the past that I respect and are part of my network, or people that are part of my family or my friends. You know, people more than ever, they're reaching back to people they haven't talked to since high school. That's good. That's good, because that's the way we realize how valuable our presence is and our sense of compassion and connectivity is for other people. So just as we need to give that, I think it's really important too that we ask other people for what we need, and we seek that out as well.
Okay, I like this one. If you have one piece of advice for people early in their career, now that you can look back on yours, what would that piece of advice be?
That's a great question. So I would say that, I don't know if you remember this part early in my talk, but one of the things I knew I was really good at was selling. I knew it because I sold more Girl Scout cookies than anybody. I sold more almond roca than anybody. If there was a prize, I won it when it had to do with selling. So I knew that I wanted to start my career as a sales rep. I really didn't know, I really wasn't that discerning about industries. And so I would say that one of the big things I learned is that I went into a company that wanted me as much as I wanted them, but I did not even know what pharmaceuticals was. I knew it was a sales job, but I didn't honestly know what pharmaceutical selling entailed or what it would be about. But once I made the commitment to that company, I dove in. I learned everything and anything I could about the company, about the competitors, about my job, about how to be a great salesperson. I met other great salespeople in the company, and I sought out advice and wisdom, and I did everything I could to be the top performer and to seize every opportunity they gave me. That's why I ended up relocating 4 different times in different states and having 11 different rotations, because I was a yes person. Yes, in terms of opportunity, not yes, I'll do anything you want, but yes, give me an opportunity to grow, to learn, to thrive. So I would say my number one piece of advice is wherever you end up, maybe right now you have been in transition, you got a telesales job and you're rolling your eyes thinking, I don't want to do this. Hey, do it to the best of your ability. Be the best telesales person you can be. Be that voice that makes people feel great when they get you on the other end of the phone call. And I think that is the best advice I can give you, that somebody gave me early on in my career, because once I was in pharma, I wasn't sure, was pharma right? They said, don't worry about it. Just be the best you can be and the opportunities will follow. I've never regretted that advice, and I hope it's helpful for anyone that's hearing this.
Oh, and of course my clock just went off, so you're going to hear that. This will be the last question, and it is COVID related. So how has your industry already responded in the short term to COVID-19, and how do you foresee it continuing to evolve over time?
Right. So the industry I'm in right now is very entrepreneurial, but the majority of the clients I serve are obviously in healthcare. And I'm very proud to be affiliated with this industry, because I feel that, you know, when it comes to the protective clothing, when it comes to the dash to create a vaccine, Genentech already has a vaccine in trials in Kaiser. That happened within less than 2 months of us being inundated with COVID-19 cases. There are many companies. Gilead was given orphan drug status for a very promising drug for COVID-19 and declined it, which basically they declined billions, probably at least millions in revenue for a product that they said no, because the purpose was to get it out as quick as possible and to make that available to patients. And they didn't want that clouded by them getting more profit because it was orphan status. So they denied the orphan status. So I'm very proud of what this industry is doing. Regeneron, there's so many good companies that are fighting hard and working around the clock for the discoveries that will make a difference for the quality of our life tomorrow when we leave our homes and we go out and want to re-engage in the environment, in the world, and with one another. So yeah, I've been very proud to be a part of this group.
Thanks again, Kimberly. We all really appreciate you taking the time to share this information with us. And thank you to everyone who came online and attended with us. This has been recorded and it will be available on the CSULB alumni website shortly. And I think we have some closing comments from Noemi.
Yeah, thank you, Kurt and Kimberly. Kimberly, you have provided great advice and many things for people to think about and explore. And to everyone, thank you for joining us on this first 49er chat. And like Kurt said, I would like to invite you to visit our website to see future programming and follow us on social media at CSULB alumni to learn about the next program coming up soon. And thank you all for joining us, and go Beach.
Go Beach. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Noemi. Thank you, Kurt.